Very important. Today, if I go to market as government of Pakistan, my sovereign risk today is pretty high. So is it in Spain, so is it in Italy, and so is it in other countries. So what's the big deal? But if I am a good company, of course I'll be hit by the sovereign rating. But if I'm a good corporate AAA, I will be able to access the market. And if I am a holding company with a proper structure with decent state assets, I'll be able to raise Euro bonds or Islamic bonds or others at a more competitive price sometimes. Now this is how you sell your public offering that makes a difference. So that is how you need to leverage. Today we cannot leverage Pakistan paper, but maybe we can leverage a holding company paper provided we work hard for a year or so on establishing the reputation of a holding company. Also, we need this holding company structure to be a layer that shields the SOEs from politics, government interventions, including multiple conflicting objectives, political interventions, and a lower degree of transparency that exists in the ministerial quarters. If a holding company is there, it will define its rule, it will make everything public, or make it incumbent on the subsidiary of the holding company to make it transparent. Re-examination of ownership functions are quite critical because all our strategic assets today are in public domain, and energy is there, transport is there. I know we have done away with telecom to some extent, and particularly the banking sector, and results are there. If you make an effort, you get good results. But as a prelude to privatization also, we need to prepare ourselves, and we'll fetch better price if we really work on good companies. So I was just trying to give you a pictorial presentation of holding company as a governance structure in managing and monitoring state-owned enterprises. Since you can have this on the website, you can figure out what map reflects to which country rather than my run through this. But you know, Singapore today is a role model. And Temasek Holding, which I'll talk in a minute about, set up in 1974, has evolved this as a role model. And look at some of the big companies that are a part of the holdings. And similarly, you know, the New Zealands of the world and others have established this and formed this holding company. So what are the models of centralized ownership? They vary a lot. So I'm not prescribing one model. It's for a country to figure out what is suitable for themselves. In UK and Australia, the government set up that has been set up, it performs monitoring and management functions. The structure does not hold equity in the companies. In Poland, the bulk of SOEs are under the Ministry of Treasury, which has special units for privatization and SOE governance. In Indonesia, where I work personally, and it's a country which is quite relevant to look at, although the size of the state-owned sector and the mess was much bigger than what we are facing also. This is just after the Suharto regime. And they set up this Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises which existed there, and there was a long drawn debate. Every mission we had, we even gave them a large policy-based operation where we said, listen, get your act together with these state-owned enterprises. And then there was a lot of debate, should we set up one holding company? No, that's not workable because energy sector itself was a large holding company. So then there was this idea of establishing sectoral holding companies so that, you know, the business is known with the holding company. And then there were lots of things that we worked on, like how do you fix the corporate governance, how do you render them accountable, performance-based system and all that. I haven't tried to follow up lately as to what the results are, but it was not an easy endeavor. But there was a political commitment by the minister and also by the leadership at that time. In Jordan, which is more a business-oriented environment, ownership are vested with an investment corporation, and the story was closed there, and it was run as an investment. In Turkey, the Treasury and Privatization Administration are the legal owners of SOE, and here we do have a privatization commission. I'm not suggesting one model or the other, but I think privatization commission has more potential than other entities. Singapore, Temasek. Singapore, I always love. You throw a chewing-gum in the floor, you get arrested. So, there's some discipline out there. Role model being quoted today. Temasek is registered under Company Act. It serves as a national holding company for SOE share, and it's 100% owned by MOF. The president is only a custodial of the investments. Just nominally approves the DHLS, the Temasek's annual budget, because there are others who scrutinize it before he signs off. Under Singapore's constitution and laws, neither the president of Singapore nor the government can be involved in Temasek holding investment, divestment, or other business directions, or any appointments. Temasek has substantial authority over its subsidiary companies. It defines the rules of the game, is responsible for appointment of the board and CEOs. This is Singapore. In other cases, the board would appoint the CEO. But it served them well. Exercises good governance internally in the Temasek, subscribes standards for its subsidiaries or independent statutory corporations to the extent that exist, and the position of chairman and CEOs is separated, and CEOs are the ones who manage and run companies, not the ministers. In some cases here, even a particular corporation, the chairperson is a minister. Strong and ethically sound civil service and statutory boards, legislated by Parliament, have full autonomy, but accountability is strong, and this together contributes to smooth functioning of Temasek. To institutionalize its role, Temasek has recently become more transparent, sought credit rating to establish its long-term role, and be supportive of raising capital for the industry. Now, the reason why I'm laying out is I'm not saying we can just replicate Temasek in Pakistan. Very hard sell to sell, but we do need some kind of structure which is obviously acceptable to the legislature of Pakistan as well as the government and the cabinet. I had used the word competitive neutrality. This is about driving competition. I think the only point I'll make here is the role of the regulators and competition commission here is very important. And I know that competition commission is trying to do that. It did commission a study on power sector which talked about how do you really need that need for introducing competition. And we have to examine ways of generating competition in virtually every segment that we have unbundled the electricity sector in, be it generation, be it distribution. We have tried to do that, but we still hold these distribution companies in our hands as government. We need to privatize them. And I'm speaking from my experience of a very messy power sector, the Philippines, where we were even discussing with the Philippine government privatization of the transmission sector, and also the distribution companies in any case were cooperative arrangements ultimately. Other factors, I've already talked about the SOE policies, but the last point is that we do need to convert most SOEs to standard legal structure. And I think you know this, railways is still a departmental undertaking, but there are also companies which may not be that relevant but are on special acts and statutes, and PI is clearly the most relevant. And today, when I was looking at its balance sheet analysis, the losses reported were growing every quarter, and the last I had seen was 111 billion rupees of one company. Now, I was telling you about these losses. If the losses